Alrighty. When last we left off, you all, the left stars, were hunting down a swarm of rust monsters that had threatened the integrity of the blood bank, a structure that Hardhold, Drada's contact, wanted to clear out in the hopes of bringing back its long-term blood storage capabilities. After using Klax as bait and exiting without the loss of any of your metal armor or weapons, or exiting without damaging your metal armor and weapons, I should say, you all exited the facility through one of the secret walls outside, or secret exits outside of the walls of the city, when you then reported back to Hardhold and set off to Hyperia Theater to catch Aesop's friends Savvy's show, the Moonlight Melody, to celebrate a hard day's work and de-stress for the next adventure. But as you all took your seats, Klax was asked to help with some heavy lifting backstage, only to find himself cornered by Master Krex. A cautious truce was formed, and Krex pledged to make contact at some point in the future regarding a shared enemy of one Selnivan, and gave the Left Stars leave to do whatever they want with her other conspirators. And that is where we left off. Klax, you, having watched Master Krex leave this dark storage room that you are in, you hear kind of the sounds of his footsteps getting further and further away outside and around the corner, sort of looking down at what little light in this room. You can see that your axes that he had sort of disarmed from you and tossed to the ground are laying in the center of the room, and you have a few seconds to catch your breath unless there's anything immediately that you want to do.
Just take a big breath, walk over, pick up my hand axes, kind of straighten my armor, and walk on out back towards the group.
You go back down the hallway, and in the direction of the party, he is nowhere in sight. You don't really know what his capabilities are, but clearly his illusion was able to give him passage in ways that caught you off guard for at least but a moment. But you turn down the hallway and hear the sound of a light applause coming from the other room as you get the impression that the show is about to start.
I will do my best to quickly get in place before the show starts, so I'm not that guy.
The rest of you, as you are in the theater proper, you do sort of hear this light applause start to propagate throughout the theater as the one of the evocation-based lights starts to brighten into the center of the stage, where this crystal platform is, surrounded by 5 statues that have different sort of archetype figures portrayed on them, as the signal is that the show's about to start. And for a brief second, you wonder, like, where is Klax? But you do see him, I think, sort of awkwardly, just because of his size, trying to get into the middle seats that you guys are in within the crowd, before he eventually is able to sit down, as the applause is starting to die down a little bit. Klax is there, like, if you're trying to be polite and not interrupt the show, you have like 5 seconds to catch people up if you wanted to. Okay. Clax takes a seat. You all take your seats again, and the performance begins. That's you all. Many of you have only seen Savvy for a good 10 seconds before Aesop dragged her away from the presence of Elua at his home to go on a brief picnic. But she is a sort of young, long-haired, half-elven woman who now on stage is wearing this almost Victorian blue gown as she steps into the spotlight and onto the platform. She sort of takes a very small curtsy as she readies a violin and begins to perform. The story that she tells in this place is sort of the story of 5 souls, 5 figures who are each adorned with the essence of an element. She talks about an individual named Zephyr, who is a wizard that breathed whispers of air and wove spells into wisps that danced in the wind. She speaks of somebody named Amaris, a ranger who was grounded to the embrace of the earth. Pyron, a rogue who flickered his agile movement with the fire's fervor and set up the world ablaze with his passion. Elena, the fighter who embodied the fluid might of water, and her presence was sort of a calming wave throughout the people she called friends. And then a cleric named Radiant, who sort of bore a unifying mantle to bring the friendship of these people together. Savvy's performance is kind of like a opera or a ballad almost. She sings some portions and she switches to her violin to play solos while some costumed figures come on and do different dance sets and whatnot, bearing the resemblance of these statues that you see in the room. The story overall lends itself to she plays a character who is almost praying to these statues. She is playing sort of like a townsperson who is beseeching the heroism of these 5 figures who are sought to bring about great change and be a force for good in the world. The perspective that she gives is almost that of somebody who is in pain because the problems that are surrounding her are not being solved. It almost has an air of prayer to it, of somebody who is praying to these heroes to bring bounty and fortune and harvest and to right the wrongs in the world, but that those issues are not being dealt with, that these heroes have not come, and that these problems have not been solved. And throughout the performance, you get either a sense, depending on, I think, like the mood of your character, really, you might get the sense of kind of sadness throughout this, or as the song might draw to a close, you might get the sense of empowerment of like as she starts to reckon with the nature that she can't rely on these heroes to solve all her problems. There's an idea laced in those words of being empowered, to taking it in your own hands and being the change that you want to see in the world. And after a number of songs and a number of hours, it's like about a 2-hour performance without any breaks, it does eventually come to a close. And we're gonna see how well she did. I don't know how to roll with advantage when typing. She's keeping one of these 2d20 plus 6. Okay. So that's technically a 22. One of them was a natural 1. But all things considered, this is clearly something that has been rehearsed and performed a few times. But today, the audience, those discerning individuals in the audience, seem to have thought that today was a good performance. Today was a good day, and there is a pretty long round of applause that comes from the people in the audience as it comes to a close. And that as the light starts to dim, she dips backstage in a curtain behind the statues, and everybody starts to stand around you ready to leave. At this point, you know it is quite late because you guys caught a later showing of this than had originally been planned. But what would you guys like to do as the crowd is starting to disperse?
God, wasn't she so amazing? That was my best friend up there, guys. I'd still wipe away tears. Oh, that was just so beautiful. So what do we think? How do we feel?
Do we like take flowers or something? And I start pulling the like unbloomed buds that I collect out of my hair.
I mean, that would be a nice gesture. Here, if we could like put them in a little bouquet like this. Do you have any string to tie them together?
Sure. Reach back into my hair and druidcraft to make all the flowers bloom.
The hair of holding. Are you looking to give these to her? You don't really see her at the moment.
I would probably try to find a way to get back to her backstage.
Just you, or are you trying to bring everybody?
I think I would turn to the rest of the crew and be like, I'm gonna go hand these to her. If anyone wants to come backstage with me to say anything, that'd be great. If not, I'll be right back.
I don't know if we should be split up as a group. So why don't we all go backstage?
Oh, okay.
I mean,
the more the merrier.
I have some notes that I wanted to give, so like that sounds great.
Oh, okay. I bet she'll appreciate that.
I don't have notes. It was great. Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Actually, you went backstage. Is there like a super secret way we can get back there?
No.
I think you do have more of a lay of the land, but you definitely don't know the exact way. But you go down this. You all go down the same hallway that you had seen Clax go towards when you first split off. That leads in the direction of backstage. You all do find a. There are like the equivalent of ushers who are trying to get people out so that they can clean up and close for the night because it's almost midnight. I think it's it's very easy for Aesop to navigate that scenario and be able to get backstage with his silver tongue. So you all eventually do come to a small dressing room where you see Savvy being sort of in close conversation with a pink tiefling woman who has sort of like a shock of green hair and looks kind of like it's nobody that you actually go ahead and give me a history check, Aesop, just in this sort of performance realm.
Yes, history. No idea.
No, yeah, you have no idea who this is. But there's an air, I would say, without any kind of insight rolls, you do get an air of coaching in this conversation. Like in the moments before you make your presence known, it seems like Savvy is getting notes from this person. Before she sort of looks over the tiefling's shoulder, and she recognizes you and says, and sort of just runs up, hugs Aesop and says, I'm so glad you made it.
Yeah, and the courtesy of Mouse, the string and the flowers, here's the little bouquet for you.
Oh, thanks. And she, having never actually introduced herself to Mouse, but she heard the stories of you and your friends. She puts two and two together and says, thank you so much. It's so nice to meet you all. This is Riza. This is my agent.
Forgot you had an agent. Hi, Aesop. Nice to meet you.
She goes in for like polite handshakes with folks.
Do you want to spell that name in chat for me?
Riza. And she just sort of says, we'll talk more tomorrow morning. I'll let you and your friends celebrate. As she,
we aren't interrupting anything, are we? We just wanted to come in.
She sort of pauses, and then Savvy just says, we'll just be a minute. Maybe I'll meet you in I'll find you in a few minutes. And Riza steps out. And now it's just the few of you, and she says, well, yeah, we have a pretty heavy schedule, so we just like to debrief a little bit after each show. And then I think tomorrow, I know I have to be here pretty early, so yeah.
A heavy schedule? What does that mean?
It's a little bit of elbow grease to plant a flag for yourself, I suppose.
Absolutely. So, like, what's your... Is this the only show that you're doing right now? What's, like, the end goal here?
What do you mean? What do you mean by angle? I mean, I'm trying to make a name for myself. Oh, I mean, it's fun. We'll sort of like fade that conversation. I think like she pulls Aesop into like a sitting area to sort of debrief and catch up with him on her work. But the rest of you, are you just sort of listening in, or there's sort of like this air of like where you could have a side conversation as the night is starting to get dark.
Is Clax acting weird at all?
He seems to be maybe a little more attentive than usual to the surroundings, just kind of really keeping an eye out. I guess you could say he's probably on edge a little bit.
Everything okay there, buddy?
Good as it can be for right now. But just let's
That's
stay
a
together.
sentence. That's a phrase that can mean so many things. Okay, great.
We got some catching up to do once we make our way home.
A night at the theater can be a moving experience.
What did you say, Flint?
I just said, where's home tonight? Are we still going back to Aesop's place, or are we trying to find somewhere else?
Might not be a bad idea.
Go
just
ahead.
with the amount of time to travel, we might want to see if we can grab a spot at maybe the inn that's down here. What was it, the Elegant Rapier?
I was about to say, I think my parents kind of imply that it would be nice to have their alone time, so I think my parents' household is out of the question.
We keep getting ourselves into a little bit more trouble. It seems like, and maybe distancing ourselves from them a little would not be a bad idea.
I mean, we have plenty of money to get a place.
Yeah,
I think
be a week or so because we'll have a guild house soon.
So true.
in my conversation with Savvy, I think I would ask her a little bit more about her agent. Just see like what she's known for. Is she good or not? Is she mean? Is she rude?
She sort of gives you the impression that Riza is a former performer herself, who retired. It doesn't sound like this is a celebrity agent. This is somebody who helps up and coming people get their feet wet in the industry, and that so far she's been treated fairly and has given her a good opportunity. So you don't really sense any red flags from it, but you also don't sense that there's like connections to be made necessarily, at least not at that moment.
That's fair.
But she, oh, sorry. I'll say as that conversation with Savvy continues, she does sort of, even just in 2 minutes of chatting, she's like, I have an early morning. I need to get back and get some rest in. So I have a place across the street. So, because it's way too late to be trekking all the way back tonight. So when we should do something again sometime.
I agree. I just think that my plans and goals are going to be taking me out of the city soon. So I think this might be the last time for us to hang out for a little while. But I can connect with you with my mind.
With your mind. All right.
With my mind.
Preferably in the morning hours.
Got it.
But it's fine. I mean, do what you're gonna do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you catch me,
I don't want to disrupt. Yeah.
It's not a disruption. Just I can't reply. And I know you love to hear from me. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, she gives you a hug. She just sort of thanks everybody, and sort of says, I gotta go find Riza to just finish a few things. If you guys, you should probably, if you don't mind, she's sort of pointing to the door. She's like, if you don't mind, I'm gonna need the room.
Totally fair. We'll let Riza in behind us.
And you guys exit.
Okay, before we go, a request. I would love to have spent this entire conversation finding a scrap of parchment or piece of paper, drawing an absolutely beautiful headshot of Aesop, and creating a one sheet essentially to give to said agent, being like, Aesop Tyrion, photo, like 6'4", question mark, skills, poet, inspirer, adventurer, notable features, horns, 2 tails, charisma.
We love a supportive friend.
Yes, fold it with a note
tails?
to Teresa and place it somewhere that it won't be immediately discovered in the room, but maybe, a day from now, someone will be like, what is this?
Give me a persuasion check.
Great.
And then a sleight of hand check. Okay.
Incredible.
Okay.
Not lower than a 5.
Okay. Well, you did your best in the time that you had, and as Riza's let back into the room, you sort of like have the sheaf of paper in your hand, and you just like let go of it in a way where the wind will carry it as it falls into like an opening in a bag that she carries on her side. So it's like it's on her person. She'll have to find it at some point.
The work is done.
And it sounded like, Clax, you were suggesting leading them to the Elegant Rapier for the night?
I think so, because that's the one over the edge, right? And it's probably
Yes.
not too far of a walk from here. If anybody has any other ideas for housing, I'm all open to it, but...
Yeah, comparatively, that is certainly much closer.
And then, do I remember? Because if I remember correctly, it's not the biggest place.
I mean, it's actually, I mean, anything on the edge is not like a high quality place, but it does have rooms. So you know that Aloy used to stay there.
Yeah, so I recommend just save us the hike and, to Aesop's point, give his parents a little bit of freedom. If you guys are good, let's just head on over to the Elegant Rapier.
Do we prefer that or the oak barrel? Is it? I think the oak barrel is probably in a slightly nicer neighborhood. If we're, that's fair. What? How late is it?
It's almost midnight.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for tonight, let's just get in and get rested.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, you all do sort of just to sort of expedite things over the course of about an hour, you do eventually find yourself at the Elegant Rapier. And in a place like here, you guys can get you can get 3 rooms for a gold piece. Not a big deal at all. 3 rooms for a total of a gold piece, I should say. And one of you to just go ahead and get that. And then there's no food being served this late, but you guys probably have, some stale bread in the bag of holding at worst, but you guys also ate before the show. So you're probably doing okay. And you all settle in, probably check in with each other before crashing for the night in one of the rooms.
Did somebody mark off a gold? If not,
yeah,
I will.
I got it. Nope.
Okay.
So before we crash, just real quick. All right, guys. Now that we're kind of in a place where we can kind of relax and talk a little more freely. So, believe it or not, that wasn't an usher who came to talk to me. It was Master Krex.
Didn't look like him.
No, it did not.
You're still alive. That seems like a definitive win.
That's what I was gonna say.
All I'm gonna say is I'm far more charismatic than you guys give me credit for. I may not seem like I have the most orthodox means, but there is a certain charm about being direct.
I believe you can get shit done.
Exactly.
There you go.
But in all kidding aside, I walked right into a trap, for lack of a better term. He had a sword to my back and a whole lot of nothing I could do about it. Long story short, he's open to supporting us. Pretty much, we just have to stay out of his way. And I didn't really get a warm fuzzy of, does that mean anybody else? Can we go mess with the rest of the operation? Whatever else. And he mentioned he'd be in contact with us. I tried to get more details. I don't think he was really too forthcoming with anything at that time. But he seemed, just so you guys know, he seemed very interested on what we knew and where we got the information from. I told him the truth. Whether he believes us or not, I don't know. He really wanted to push me for what other information I had. I just told him it was all hearsay and happenstance, so didn't give him anything. But definitely, I think we're building a bridge. Just next time, somebody else might want to talk to him instead of me.
It sounds like you did great.
I'm alive.
He said he wanted to work with us after a conversation with you, so I feel like you did pretty well.
I don't know how much it is working with us, so much as going back to the enemy of my enemy type of situation. So
that's fair.
Are worse relationships to have.
Maybe we should get you to be our face of the party more often. Have you do more of the talking.
Oh.
Well, talking or yelling at people. I'm really good at the latter, not so much as the former. But
Draw to audibly sighs.
I'm sorry, what was that?
So draw to audibly sighs at that comment, but
so speaking of cracks and just this whole Selnivon thing in general, what's our next move here? It seems like there's a lot of things we could do here in the city outside of dealing with Selnivon. I'm not clear what we do as far as, progressing that thread goes.
I'm stuck as well. Right? Because to bring this operation to a halt, I feel we have to leave the city at this point. But that being said, Master Crux said he'd be in touch with us. If we leave the city, I don't know how he's going to reach out to us. I don't know how he's going to know where we're at. Additionally, I know you guys have the guild stuff that you guys want to do and all that stuff. I really don't know where to go, what to do next. I think we need to... I want to keep pushing hard on Sony. I want to take this down.
I agree. I'm just trying to figure out what that next step is. And if we have a clear direction, I'm all for, running that down. But I don't know, if we need more time in the city to research things or do some schmoozing or something, I mean, we've got other things here.
Unfortunately, our main researcher is currently away, so it would be a lot harder for us to get some solid information in that regard. We can still do it on our own, but Jory's gone.
Drada and Mouse, roll me a d20, if you don't mind. Just a standard d20.
20.
Oh,
Who's
God.
listening into us?
We are not great.
Oh, that's a total 10. Total 10.
Maybe it's wisdom and I
Total.
get to add a bunch.
Stealth check. I had 11. It's fine.
With a 16 perception from Mouse, as you are sort of listening to your friends chat, you see a slip of paper sort of thrown, shuffled under the door of the room that you guys are all staying in.
I'll go pick it up.
You sort of look at it. It's a folded sheet of paper that has a kind of like a sigil of a eye with like a gold triangle over it. I don't know that you would recognize it.
Can I very quickly try and open the door and see who slid this under the door?
Well, Mouse hasn't communicated any of this yet.
I was about to say, hey, does anybody recognize this?
It's the symbol of the trained eye, Longol's squad. That Clax would know.
Yep. Yeah, that's probably meant for me. Meh.
Sure.
Grab it. Open it up.
Basically, it's a very short note that says, "It's late. We'll be checking in tomorrow. Be here."
Well, Flint, you're asking what we do next? I hand him the note. Looks like Longle's got something for us.
I mean, there's part of me that would like to know how long we're going to wind up in town, because if we're going to be here a while doing research or whatever else, I don't hate the idea of trying to help out Hardhold and work on that blood bank or something, but I don't want to...
yes, and
Yeah, that's
it
better
seems
work for
like-
you.
yeah, if you want to go, I think that still leaves the rest of us with
Yeah.
a whole lot of time on our hands, which I'm sure we'll find ways to talk about it.
Well, I think we'll probably hear from Longle relatively early tomorrow. I don't think he's
Yeah.
going to keep us waiting around all day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to commit to doing that unless we're all sort of doing things in town and have things to do, but...
Let's sleep on it tonight. We've got Flame Bridge. We've got the wilds out there with the manufacturing. We've got can't remember where else. So we got options if we want to. Well, I recommend an option along those lines, but let's see if Longle's kind enough to help us out again.
Well, and I don't know that this necessarily progresses us towards Selny directly, but like, is there anything we could do here in town to try and just like stop the flow of, whatever this is called, spice? No.
Vapor.
Vapor. Into town or something, at least, maybe sort of
So we,
fix some of
here's
the drug problem here. I don't know.
Wouldn't that make us more like eyes on us than
absolutely.
I mean, depends on how we do it, but potentially.
In case you guys haven't noticed, subtlety is not really my strong suit. But let's see what Longo has to say tomorrow, because I think, depending on what he has, maybe he has some leads right along those lines, Flint, where, hey, this came up in town that's tied directly to it, and again, I think he's walking a... Longo's more than likely doing us a favor, which he shouldn't be, but fingers crossed, he's doing us a favor.
Ooh, I have this ring. I should identify this before we go to bed.
Where'd we get the ring from again?
I think I found it in the mouth of one of the big rust monsters.
Okay, yes, I remember now. I remember I found gems in like one of their hoard piles that didn't melt away.
Yeah, I added those gems to your inventory. Although for all intents and purposes, excuse me, for all intents and purposes, it's vendor trash. Like you can just convert it to gold if you want, unless you want to keep the gems for some reason.
Convert it to...
Oh, you're cutting out. Yes, I didn't hear anything you said.
Oh, I'll convert it to gold.
Okay, cool. You spend a few minutes identifying the ring. I mean, is there anything are people ready to go to sleep, and Flint just sort of does this as part of his night? Or is there more you guys are talking about?
Lax is ready for bed. He had to just not scared out of him.
I thought I had, but I think maybe my notes were wrong. I think I still need to message Dawn and let them know that everyone's headed here.
You have not messaged Dawn yet. You've messaged Fern several times and Button once, or Button twice maybe. Okay, well, let's go through what people are doing in the night. Flint, we'll start with you since you first opted to do this. You do identify the ring, and the identify spell tells you what an item is. What you receive back is what the item has become, almost like it was not crafted this way. You get the impression that this ring, because it was magical, had some ability to resist the effects of the rust monster, but that it must have been in there for long enough to corrode nonetheless. And what was a ring of resistance is now an unstable ring of resistance, which at the beginning of every day changes what resistance it gives you.
Oh, that's interesting.
I'm putting it in your inventory momentarily. It works like you give it a once over. It functions in a way that you know that it works. But even though you have to attune to it, it seems that it's at the moment, at least, it is not attuned to any particular element. Give me an Arcana check.
Did I roll? I thought I clicked it. Not sure why it's not rolling, but what do I have on this? +9.
Oh, is it just broken? I'm not getting anything.
I can't even hit enter in chat. Let me try and refresh the page and see.
Okay.
I'm typing the dice roll out and hitting enter, and it's just not doing anything there.
All good. And just while that's refreshing, Clax, you're just going to sleep. Drada, are you for the most part just trying to go to sleep? And Aesop?
I think If I have the energy, I would try to give another go at attuning to the sword and just kind of gripping it and trying to think through its past and history and reconcile that with myself.
Okay.
That gets exhausting. I will pass the bucket.
I am drawing in my book of the scene from my perspective of my bestie on stage.
Okay. With an Arcana 15, Flint, you think that you may be able to salvage this ring into a specific element, if you were to want to do that. Right now, whatever energy is crackling within it, does not. It seems like it hasn't attuned to an element, like similar to how I've described attunement of items to each other before, with like that with the necromancer's tome and the emeralds. It seems like this is trying to attune to something that will tell it what element it's supposed to be resistant to, but right now it's just reaching all over. So you think with a strong enough Arcana check in the future and an item of some elemental significance that you could seat within the ring, that you may be able to like make it a resistance to fire ring. But right now it's just sort of like latching on to, you see, like, I think right now it is attuned to fire, and you see it like flick. You see with a detect magic that there's like some flickering energy between it and a nearby candle that it's reaching out for. But so you need something to anchor it in order to keep it to an element of your choosing.
Does anybody want a new piece of jewelry for the time being? I'll probably work on it later. But it might help you out.
You don't want to hold on to it?
Yeah.
I mean, I can hold on to it for now, I guess. I don't have any particular like resistances or anything. Probably if anyone's got like resistance to a bunch of stuff, it doesn't make sense for them to have it. But I guess Clax has got resistance to fire already, but that's about it, I think.
Okay.
I will attune to it, because why not?
Sure. Great. Aesop, you get some art in. I think you are having a good day for all intents and purposes, so I'm not going to make you roll for anything. Drada, you are trying to attune to this blade. Now, earlier today was not necessarily a good day. And I would ask you, like, how is Drada feeling, having sort of, I would say you have like a dull psychic thrumming headache that you've probably been trying to push down in order to get the job done. And then your friends drag you to a performance that might, help de-stress a little bit, but it also, some people may just want to sleep in. So how are you feeling as you try to push all that aside and attune to the sword again?
Yeah, I feel like I think, yeah, today's been a big day, and not necessarily a wonderful day for sure. And I feel like he's in this moment just like trying for the sake of like trying, like feeling like, no, like this is of my people. I should be able to do this. This is like my right to do this. Why is my brain not fucking clicking? Like just kind of like those spiral thoughts, just like trying to just brute force it. And yeah, getting gross and sweaty in the process.
I'm going to ask you to roll another D20 check then, as you're just trying to cope with everything that's happening. it's not as bad as it was last time. That is enough. It's not the most restful sleep ever, but I think there's a bit of calm as you, a small bit of calm that you reach when you realize you don't know how this works, but you feel like the sword has accepted you. Not that the sword is sentient. You have no reason to think that. But, you know, with everything that's been going on with the sort of struggle of your people and the idea that the first time that you try to connect with this piece of history back from home, that you weren't able to, I think you feel as you grip it one more time and try to calm yourself. There's a bit of warmth that you feel come from the blade. Not warmth that touches your skin as you're holding it, so much as warmth as you feel like the blade becomes a part of you and that it has some of your blood flowing through it. Even though it doesn't, it feels like an extension of yourself as you're holding it for the first time, fully attuned to it. And I think that thought is enough to feel like recovery after a long, hard day.
Especially if it feels warm. Holds it tight and then not tight enough that he is cutting himself on a blade. But holds it and it passes the fuck out.
Let's do mouse. What would you like to send?
Yeah, so I would go outside and set up my little circle and think about Dawn, and then I will use my quill form to say, "Hi, I hope you're well. If you want, head to Consonance. We've started a guild. Fern is coming when he can."
Just confirming, I thought Fern was a she.
I thought I was messaging Dawn.
Yes, Fern is coming when...
So I checked my notes, and I think I originally told you that Fern was a he, but have been using she. So I think you're just confused. I'm happy either way.
We'll sort this out offline, perhaps. But for the time being, you get a response that says, "Oh, good to hear from you. I actually, I kind of found a guild of my own. Is maybe later?" Kind of ends with a question mark.
I'm glad Dawn's doing well, but I already used my other wild shape for the day, so I will go back inside and go to bed.
Okay. Clax. You're just passing out?
Yeah, just need a good night's rest. And I'm making the assumption that Longo's team, since they just dropped off a note, I'm going to, for better or worse, make the assumption that we're going to be eyes on us tonight.
Okay. Who, I'm not suggesting that anything bad's going to happen. I'm curious, the room setup, who are you sharing a room with? At least one person, I would expect.
Whoever.
Probably Flint. At least that's what I usually assume.
Works for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Flint, make a perception check.
Uh-oh.
Okay. So Clax, you fall into slumber as you start to dream. What does Clax normally dream about? Or what would Clax be dreaming about after a day like today?
That is a good question. I don't know. Probably longing for simpler times. Training, going through martial drills. For lack of a better term, being the better of the people around him when it comes to combat. Maybe flashes of going back home, growing up, fighting with his siblings, training with his siblings. I think it would kind of be all over. A little bit of nostalgia, a little bit wishing for the way things were, or better things.
You're going through this sort of montage of events, things that have happened, things that you want to happen, things that training that you've done, fights you've been in. In some of the sparring matches, there's clearly like an air of you bested somebody, like you're holding up your sword to their chin and then laughing it off after a successful bout, as opposed to like a full-fledged fight.
Yeah.
You're flashing between a couple of these visions, and eventually they start to take a turn where you clash swords with one of your brothers, and your sword flashes with fire and rips through and cuts them into the shoulder. And then you see what it starts as like you looking concerned, but then you flash to another scene where you're dueling somebody else and it cuts through, and then you see yourself smiling as you pull your axe from their shoulder as it has a searing, cauterized wound in it. You get more and more of these visions, and it has a almost what is it called when like the edges of a picture fade in like a yellowish color?
Vignette?
Yeah, vignette. It has a vignette effect of flame that is sort of coming into your vision as it gets more and more intense, and as you start to feel like flush in your cheeks as your blood is rushing throughout this dream. And you hear, as you finally go into another fight, and let's just roll something. You see you dueling Drada with their new sword as you completely decapitate him and smile. And the vignette turns to a complete wall of flame as you hear kind of like a fiery voice scream out in the words, "Release me." And as this is happening, Flint, you wake up to the smell of smoke in your room. As you see, you sort of like turn over and see that there is where Clax's shoulder is pressed up to the back of the bed. The sort of birthmark that had the constellation upon it starts to glow and create a heat onto the bed sheets, as seems to have ignited a small part of his bed.
I'll rush over and try and smother the fire and maybe shake Clax awake a little bit while I'm at it.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy.
Clax, you wake up and I think your arm goes for Flint's throat for just a second. Not out of any I'm not putting emotions onto you, but it's sort of an instinctual, like, yeah, you were in the middle of a battle and your arm is doing that.
You know,
Yeah.
as soon as I see his flint, I definitely pull back. What's going on?
You were on fire
Fire? What? Where?
right here. Point to his like burnt bed sheets or whatever, and the smoke in the room.
Oh.
I think it was your shoulder. I don't know what we did to you, but
Reach over and see if I can reach and touch the bark.
Yeah. It's hot.
I thank you. Sorry for lunging at you.
maybe you should be like a stomach sleeper for a while.
Yeah, that's it. I didn't get up or anything, right? I was just asleep.
Yeah, you're just asleep. You just all of a sudden it was a little smoky in here. Figure we should maybe try to not burn the place down.
Yeah.
You all right?
Yeah, yeah. Just I'm gonna go overhaul the fire, make sure there's nothing there, kind of clean it up, and you know what? Maybe I'll sleep on my stomach. That's a good point. And actually, you know what? Maybe I'll just put my armor on because at least it's leather back there with the strap. That way, if for whatever reason I roll over, so I'll go ahead and put my armor back on. And actually, what I'll do is I'll just sit down with the bed and hunch up against it so my shoulder's above the bed line, and put my head between my knees and try and go to sleep and sleep off the dream I had. And the fact I almost killed Flint.
Yeah, I mean, Flint, you didn't actually suffer anything, and I think you don't have to roll insight to know that he doesn't mean you any harm.
Flint thinks he can take clacks anyways. So.
Remember, I have resistance fire.
It's fair.
But you do resume sleep. I think, like, as you sleep, you start to have memories of, like, at the oak barrel, you smashed the table and it exploded into, like, burned wood and flame. And I think there was a couple instances as well where I've described, like, heat in areas that didn't make sense emanating from your body, and you're starting to just think that there's something going on, although you don't know what it is. But you just sort of keep hearing that draconic scream of "release me," that you're just sort of playing back in your head, wondering if it was, like, more than a dream. And you all wake up with a long rest.
I would probably spend like an hour in there or something just working on that. I'm never gonna remember the fulgurite.
Oh yes,
stuff. But otherwise, yeah, I'm just
okay. Give me, because I think you were pretty close to done. Give me one more tinker tools check.
Sure.
Yeah, you know what you need to do. You know what you need to do, but it's just, oh, wait, sorry. No, that was mouse rolling something else.
Yep.
Sorry, wheel well.
Oh, all good. I would say, just because it occurs to me that you would probably just use Flash of Genius whenever you know that something quote unquote fails. The DC was 20, so you probably would use that.
Let me double check that I had some left. I was pretty tapped out. Yeah, I still have some.
Okay.
So I would use one, sure.
Yeah. And you seat the fulgurite within the pendant and feel kind of your magic, the magic that sort of connects to your tattoos, start to feed into it as you create. It almost has that, like, arc reactor sort of moment where it comes online and then it just sort of seems to be its own power source as you know that your craft has been completed.
Okay.
But you all wake up and meet in the lobby or the sort of tavern area of the Elegant Rapier. This early in the morning, there's a few people who stayed up later than you and are drunk and laid out on one table or another. As you all meet downstairs. Clax, you said you probably would wake up a little earlier as you normally do.
I'll try to. Depends on how well I slept afterwards, because either I was up really early or I actually did fall back asleep.
Yeah, you fell back asleep without issue.
Okay. So then just probably my normal time then. Get up.
As we're sitting around, I will just kind of go to the group and be like, hey guys, I know we're like getting ready for the day. Is there anything in particular I should be prepared to do?
Put fires out.
I was about to say, Clax, do you have an idea of what your contact wants or has information of?
I don't know for certain, but Longle's been in touch with me in regards to the murder of our contact through Aelua. That got us into the Get the Flower. Forgive me, I'm forgetting his name right now.
Francis.
Thank you, Francis. He's also been involved with kind of just eyes and ears. Also, he's here to keep the peace, though, in general. So he's also keeping an eye on us to make sure we're not getting into too much trouble. So it could be anything from they know what we did at the blood bank and they're either happy or upset about it. It could be they've got leads with regards to Vapor. It could be something completely different. All in all, though, I don't think there's anything in trouble for us, because if there was trouble, they would have either come and got us in the middle of the night when we were sleeping, or they would have given us heads up if there's something pressing. So I think whatever it is, it's either information or they need something from us is what I'm going to go on a limb and guess.
Sounds fair.
And Mouse, you can prepare your spells after this meeting if you so desire, but I think you round up some accessible food nearby. It's nothing great here at the edge, but after a little bit of waiting, you do all see Lieutenant Longle, who I don't know that all of you have seen or met, actually. I think Flint maybe caught a glimpse briefly on a drunk night. But you all do see this sort of tall half-orc figure wearing a green cloak that is sort of draped over one shoulder, and it has that kind of like has a pin holding the cloak together that has the shape of the eye with the yellow triangle over it that Mouse saw on the letter. And you see as Longle is walking into the space sort of with a sword sheathed at his hip, a longsword sheathed at his hip, as well as a bow and quiver strapped to his shoulder. The cloak is currently down, but as he steps into the room, he pulls it back and sort of makes eye contact with you, Clax, and sees you with the party that he hasn't met before, and is kind of giving you like the should I approach eyes.
But just give him the nod.
You're all sitting around a table that is relatively small. There isn't really room for him here. But you see he just like starts dragging a chair from one of the nearby tables and sort of walks up to you all and says, "May I sit?"
You never have to ask for a spot. How's it going, Longle?
He kind of like gives you a nod and gives out a little bit of a sigh, kind of just like it's an early morning sigh. Like, all right, another day. And says, "I don't think I've met your friends, although we've, of course, had eyes on you before, but is this..."
I'm sure you know everybody, but just in case, I'm going to go around the room and just give quick introduction by name to everybody to Longle.
And this is... He sort of looks to you, Clax, and says, "Is this the new squad? Are these your friends?"
We're going with friends for now. Kind of give a smirk over to Drada.
"Quote unquote friends." No. He nods and says, "Well, I'm assuming you and your friends are in the same business then, for all intents and purposes, and that we have similar interests."
They've put up with me on this little quest so far. And they've probably gotten themselves deeper into it than they would have ever thought, and they're still here, so I think they're along for the ride. I kind of look around the table at each and every one of them, see if anybody, feel free to give me a different look, but I'm kind of making each person's eyes. Drada.
Yeah, Longo does sort of linger on. I think he lingers on probably Dorada and Aesop as he's trying to size up the people at this table.
I think I would get awkward with another strange man trying to size me up, just being like,
I don't mean anything by it, but looking at Aesop, but what brings you to this work?
Well, a long time ago, Clax and I traveled together, and we joined the Heroes Guild into this group, and I do magic, and I can fuck people up with my mind. If you want to see.
No, that will be quite all right.
Okay.
Actually, just looks over Longo, gives him a shove, or shrug.
I suppose.
Rada's just staring.
I suppose he sort of lightens his mood a little bit and says, "I suppose I deal in a realm of caution. My questions are not meant to interrogate, but simply to understand who I'm doing business with. I trust that if you are friends of Clax, then you are allies of mine."
That's fair. We've been together for a while, and we've all been through some interesting circumstances. Have made it through all of them thus far, so I think all of us are equally talented and capable on our own and as a group. And I'm pretty sure Clax can vouch for that. We'll go over at Clax.
He's just so friendly, affable, and charming. How can you not want to follow and join him?
I've known people who have experience with Clax as well, and they also say great things. But I suppose let me just cut to the chase with one question. What's your opinion of the Mistress in Red?
And that was addressed to who?
Not you specifically. He's addressing everybody but you. Selny Vaughn, the Mistress in Red.
Seems like she's profiting off the misfortune of a lot of other people, so fuck her.
I mean, when we met her, she was more distinctly unpleasant than the average. So
good enough.
Sorry, I just had a laugh. Just had a laugh at that.
Well, I don't know what Clax has told you of me, but I owe some favors to Alua, who I believe you've met. And so I have some work that I do with her, and that is sort of the purpose of what brings me to you today. So, although I don't know all the details, I know that I met Clax to discuss some business on the edge within the last week. He sort of looks at you. He's referring to when he showed you Francis's body, but he's not saying that out loud. I've done a little bit of follow-up. It seems that the gang of vapor peddlers that used to deal next to the Iron Gate Penitentiary has been replaced by some out-of-towners that my squad and I didn't recognize. Generally stay out of their business because it's for reasons. But to see people who we haven't seen before raises eyebrows. They were all wearing thick, sturdy, green patterned fabric, kind of commando-like in a way. But it looked quite uncomfortable when they came into town. One of them, a dwarf named Neri, had some loose lips, and as we didn't apprehend or engage in any way, but a little bit of undercover work at a local tavern revealed that Neri was talking about how good it is to be back in civilization after spending some time in a place called Mutal, deep in the untamed areas of the Stratos Wilds. It seemed that whoever came to replace Francis seems to be trained quicker than normal, and they seem to know what they're here for and how to do it. So my guess is that these individuals who've replaced Francis are a little bit closer to the game than Francis's crew was. And I get the impression, based on what they were talking about, that wherever this Mutal place is, that it seems to be somewhere where they were doing work.
I think that's the manufacturing. Did they give you any other information?
It was, even though he was quite drunk, there were some degree of, they had some training to keep a tight lid on their business. We picked up a few bits and pieces, but it's hard to know what is valuable information and what isn't. They did say something about, like, in order to navigate the wilds, they had to climb down the ladder. We weren't quite sure what that meant. They did have, they didn't have a ladder with them. They were kind of ribbing each other, sort of telling the tales of things that they encountered in the forest or situations they found themselves in, but
Okay.
I don't know what is useful to you, so if there's questions you have, like, I'll recall as much as I can.
Did they give an idea? Did they mention Grasian?
Sorry, say that again.
Did they mention a name such as Grasian?
I don't believe so.
So if I remember correctly, Grasian, and I'm kind of looking at the party, he was the one in the Stratus Wilds. And then you had, yep, which one of them?
Which one was he again?
Grasian was the little,
Or like
halfling gnome.
Forest.
Oh.
Gnome?
Yeah,
Forest gnome, alchemist kind of guy.
he's the one running the manufacturing. Then you had Brigella, Krex. And I'm saying these names on purpose out in front of Longold to see if I get any reaction as I start naming them off. The half elven or elven woman, can't think of her name right now. And forgive me, I don't have OneNote on this computer, so I don't have my notes currently. So.
She was very particular about her name.
Yep, Brinstriana. And I'm forgetting one.
I don't.
Yeah, Shauna wasn't Flamebridge.
He mentions, he sort of says, I don't. They did talk about not. It wasn't explicitly alchemy, but they were talking about how dangerous the spores were in the wilds. They were one of the people they were ribbing. They called a spore stomper because of some incident. So maybe an alchemical connection.
Did you get an idea for how far out of the town? I know you said it's in Stratos Wilds, but we get an impression how long it took him to get into town.
Big one. He says they didn't say, and it's hard to tell. They, with all of the sort of, they didn't seem to have any wear and tear on themselves or their clothing, anything that I could spot.
Okay. So this group, though, the new ones that came in, how much trouble are they causing, and would you be upset to see them hindered in their process?
He kind of gives you a hard look and says, we are on rotation for... sorry, looking at my calendar. We're on rotation for another 8 weeks here. There's nothing that I would bother yourself with that we can't take care of ourselves. But also, you know, we're not keen to knock heads when we can try to get information as we did last night.
Understood.
Could you put into chat how you spell Mutao, something? The place they mentioned they came from. Was not close in my spelling.
All good.
I'll look at the rest of the group. I'm like, well, we have at least a place and research. We can't get some research done if it doesn't spark in anyone's mind.
They had a... Again, it's hard to know what to make any of it. They had a thing for alliteration. It's almost like it was an inside joke between them, particularly with words relating to words starting with the letter H. Things like hidden havoc or horrid hymns.
Oh, I hate this already. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Something that they would laugh about. It seemed silly to them.
Maybe that's how they name off their like specific locations in the wilds, or like specific points of interest.
Or their leader makes them do something with alliteration and they're making fun of them.
I'll let two people roll either wisdom or yeah, I would say let two people roll a raw wisdom check
Ooh,
if you would like.
not me.
I got you.
Do.
It was so close to a 20.
Okay. Draw to coming in. I would say with a 20, what you recall from the vision sequence was that Grajan, the forest gnome, had referred to his work as being part of a guild called Hermetic Host. And he, with a 19, I would say you make this is sort of like a leap almost, but you connect earlier when they talked about climbing down the ladder of like what would two H's on top of each other look like.
Mm-hmm.
Take that. Great.
This man loves his puns, almost. Love that.
I see myself reflected in this man too much.
I would say it may be puns or it's like code, like it's sort of meant to be, meant to be a little hidden. You know, when you saw him in the vision, he was more of a brusque, kind of like almost mean, judgmental person. He wasn't really speaking in these sorts of riddles, but you think there's almost some kind of system by which these people have been taught to communicate.
Okay, well, I guess we gotta learn a whole new language. For infiltrating, if we want to go that route. But yeah, I think that, and then Jada goes into explaining the HH connection and down the ladder and Hermetic Host and all that jazz.
Well,
We could check
oh.
with the guild hall to see if there's a location based on the name.
I feel we did. Didn't we?
He tried to ask about Krex at the guild hall or at the guild federation, and they had said something along the lines of like, maybe you'll get access to those records once you're a part of the federation. So you'd probably get an impression that unless you really smooth talked your way into it, that until your guild hall is final, that you probably don't have that kind of access yet.
Well, Longo, what do I owe you for this information today?
Nothing. I'm paying back a favor for Elua.
All right. If I want to get a hold of you while you're on rotation here on the edge, what's the easiest way?
Just be here, and we'll find you.
Understood. I think we got some things to talk about.
Yeah. He pushes himself up out of the chair and gives the group a sort of a final scan and a nod before walking out. On the way out, you see he drops like a silver piece on the bar. As you see that there's this bartender who, is there just to make sure that nobody steals anything. They're not serving any food right now, but he's just sort of polishing the bar. This person, you've had conversations with Elua and Francis and other people here before, and you know that he keeps his mouth shut. But nonetheless, you see a silver piece dropped just for Longold to pay his part of that.
Well, just whenever we go to leave, I'll drop a gold piece on the way out too, but that'll come in the future. Turn to the group. Well, didn't really give us a whole lot more to stay here for.
No.
We could stay until we've got a guild hall just to have a, home base and potentially get access to records and be able to look stuff up about this hermetic host.
Tell me what that timeline is.
It's a week, isn't it?
They didn't give us a firm timeline. We could go and check in on it today, honestly.
Yeah, I will tell you as DM, if you choose to go in this direction, you will enter a 1 week time skip, where you can tell me what you sort of want to do during that week. And then I will, we can progress with the guild hall and all that. But that may have its own consequences as well. Like you don't really know. There's not a whole lot more planned. That I'm being candid as a DM. I don't have that many encounters planned inside the town at the moment, but I know that there's plenty of reason to time skip. So you are welcome to do some downtime if you so choose.
Mouse, isn't your friend coming with an airship?
Yeah, but I don't know how quickly. Fern said he was coming when time allows.
Yeah, I don't know if that's something we can wait for or not. I don't know. That would be a good thing for us to have to try to go to these wilds or...
Yeah, I mean, at minimum, that's going to take 2 weeks for the airship to get here. So you'd have to do a longer time skip if you're waiting for that. You'll have more information from the guild house before you see Fern again.
I know we're kind of hesitant on all that stuff, but I don't think, based on what Longo said, the wilds can be too far out. And they've got to be close enough that they can distribute easily. And the fact that they're able to send people in means I don't think it's too far away. So I say one of two things. We can either go pay these people a visit, but as Longo mentioned, he can probably get far more information, especially if somebody's got a loose lips, get far more information out of them over the next 8 weeks than we could ever imagine, or several weeks. Versus we go stomping around the wilds and see what turns up.
Well, the wilds is, at least looking on the map, the wilds is a pretty big place. I feel like we need a little bit more than just the wilds.
Well, we got Mutal.
Is there anywhere we could find out more about where that is within the wilds? Is there anyone around here that would know that?
Well, might be as simple as asking. Give me 1 second. Walk up and walk over to the bartender. Put my 1 gold piece down. Say, as always, thank you for your discretion, but you ever hear of a town called Mutal?
He
And I have my finger on the gold piece. Like, I've slid it over, but I haven't taken my finger off yet.
he looks down at the gold piece. Roll an insight check.
Insight. Insight. I don't even know why I'm looking. I should just pick one. There it is.
16. He has no idea. He's trying to figure out what it is you just said.
Fair enough. Thanks, bud. I just give him the gold coin and walk back. Yeah, it was worth a shot.
Would Avendir know? As someone flying over and having relations in different regions?
I can ask.
Yeah, I mean,
Or someone at the university, maybe? Like, do records exist of this place?
Well, that's what I was saying. My point of contact in the library is now gone, so I don't know if I could totally get access to everything like I was, but we can still certainly try. That is also on the opposite side of town of where we currently are. But I could send a message off to Avendir first. Let me go into my character sheet and just get rid of another page.
How many pages do you have left?
I am.
It's like 89, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have a lot left.
Oh.
Yep, 89. Soon to be 88.
What about like Gris or somebody? Do we know? I guess they're probably with Avendir.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gris and his pilot, whatever that guy's name was. Hmm. Yeah. I don't have anybody better to ask.
I will write to Avendir. We heard of a place / name of Mutal somewhere in the Stratus Wilds. I know, kind of a big place. Do you happen to know where in the wilds it could be, or if you've even heard of it? Thanks, heart, love, Aesop.
Over a few minutes, you do get a response that that says, "Never heard of it. Just checked my maps, which were updated as part of confirming and getting my route approved, and it's not on it. If this place exists, it's either too new to have made the most recent map print, or ...
Yeah, or hidden. Yeah, okay.
Um,
Cool beans.
I have an idea. Give me a... I think Drada maybe runs back upstairs just for a moment and starts fiddling with his with his choker and seeing if he can send a message out to Anushka.
Sure. Yeah. You sort of rotate it so that one of the moons opens up and covers the other, and you feel it thrumming.
Hi, Drada here. Happy to report contact with Hard was made successfully. Blood Bank Aventus was scouted and cleared potentially for further future use. If there are further instructions, please give to me. Also, do we have any record of a place called Mutal in the Stratus Wilds? Ask Drada.
Yeah. In the past, you haven't used this directly, so you've had to sort of piece together how it works. But there is, like, whenever you've seen it used in front of you, you sort of open it to send a message, and then you sort of click it into a receiving position. And then it closes until the next day. So it's only going to be like basically a one send per day without a word limit is sort of how you're able to decipher it. And once you click it into that receiving position, takes, I would say, like 10 seconds before you get a response. You almost hear the flipping of papers, like it's picking up radio waves as opposed to words that are being spoken, as there's like a light vibration within it. Not that Drada knows what a radio is, and radios don't exist, but it has that level of transmitting information. And the answer you get back from Anushka is no record of Mutal over here. Your report is understood. I will bring this information up and be back in touch. And then you feel your amulet click back into its static state.
Yep, head back downstairs. Well, I got nothing.
So we have no real lead in the Stratus Wilds where this could be.
You know what? Don't lie. And correct me if I'm wrong. obviously there is urgency in the grand scheme of, like, the shit's fucked. And trying to right this will better the world. And also, there's probably, sure, there will be, I can imagine there will be consequences if we don't leave immediately. But going in more informed and perhaps shortening the trip once we actually do leave, if we can gather any information, feels like a better way of going about it on my end. Alternatively, not that I didn't have a lovely time on the Savannah Island. I would rather not wander through wilderness, and I love me some wilderness. I would rather not wander aimlessly more than we have to. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind spending like a week here. Maybe you guys try and schmooze this new group of vapor dealers, or see if you can overhear something in a bar. I can work on the blood bank, and if
I
nothing
can
else,
do research.
yeah, maybe do some research, and if nothing else, we'll go look through the guild records once we've got our guild hall.
How does that sit with you, Clax? I know you feel the most urgency of any of us.
So I don't think we really have a choice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get in contact with Alua today, and then I'll just bank on us being here for at least a couple days, and then we can kind of see what information we can get, and then we'll go from there. And if it happens to be a week, it happens to be a week. To Drada's point, he's right. You know, I thank you for the reminder of the Savannah Island. It was not exactly a great time. Hey, sup? Nothing against you, bud. Just
I'm fully aware.
that was a little rough sledding. So let me make it up to the Neptune's Call, or I'm sure I'm butchering the name of it. It's a water-based hotel or tavern up where she's staying now. I say I'm going to head up there today, go have a conversation with her, see what information I can find, and then where do we want to meet back up tonight? We can do something like that.
Oops.
And see.
Drada says as Kevin types.
Aquatic Anchor, thank you.
I mean, if we're committing to staying in town for at least a week, I'm probably going to go talk to the, folks over at the Burning Needle and get started on that as soon as possible. So I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if I end up staying with you guys much at all this week, or if I end up spending a lot of my time there. I don't know if there's like a place to stay over in that region.
Burning Needle doesn't have rooms. You'd probably end up at Aesop's place.
Yeah, unless it didn't look like Mother Mary's had like rooms to.
No, not yet, at least. They are expanding, but not yet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm either gonna sleep
Honestly,
or somewhere near there. I guess the Aquatic Anchor's not that far.
I mean, I might join you in one, just facilitating any communication with the Burning Needle if need be. And also, like, there was a whole record room in the blood bank that I would like to maybe spend some more time in. Also, I don't know, I'm free labor, use me.
I can probably help with that too, just with moving earth or being support.
On a slightly different note, I know we were at some point, or maybe this was just me, trying to brainstorm up who we would potentially know that might want to work at our guild. Do we think that's something we want to try and offer to Eula? I know she's looking for a base of operations or something. I don't know if that makes any sense. I don't even know if she'd take us up on the offer, but
I feel like that's a good idea. I did not think of that.
When I talked to her, I can float it by her today. See what she says.
Did we already reach out to Null?
No,
we
on my
absolutely should.
list.
I think we talked about reaching out to her and then realize that she's already hired on Avenger's ship.
Right.
Eventually,
So good at getting people jobs.
Well,
Well,
we'll have 2 of your people, probably, right? Fern and somebody else.
Yeah. When they get here.
well, I want us to be able to take a little bit of a break, maybe think through some of what you want to accomplish during 1 week of downtime during the break. We'll make sure that everybody has time to kind of do their own solo activities. We'll be expediting a bit of it, so we're not going to play every conversation with every person and every message. But we'll say that once we get back from the break, we'll sort of start to play through those scenarios and see where this takes you before you step off on whatever's next.
Sounds good.
All right.
Woo!
Be right back. Alrighty. Well, you all return to a break, probably the first break you've had since adventuring. You might have had a break in Mistral now that I think about it, but you have been working pretty hard, walking a lot, at the very least, every day, as you navigate this donut of a city. But you find yourselves with a week of downtime. I'm confirming it early as a week of downtime because as Klax speaks with Alua, we can, if there are specific questions you have for her, then we can certainly get into that. But she doesn't have, one thing that she reveals to you early on is that she doesn't really have any immediate leads. She was looking into, in the brief time since you last saw her, was looking into the history of Master Krex, and who he was and what his potential connection to the throne was. In the short time since you last saw her, which was like 24 hours ago, she would not have learned anything. And that was sort of what she was dedicating her time towards with her previous base of operations going offline for a while. Is there anything maybe over the course of the week that you would check in with Alua about, or questions that you would have for her just now that you would have some alone time with her during this downtime?
Does she want a job? Mutal. And if she's learned anything more, just in general, from the visions we shared. I'm sure she's also put out feelers on that in the meantime. See if she's learned anything more about that stuff.
You sort of bridge. I don't think it's necessarily your first question for her, but I think
No.
you but when you do inevitably ask about the job, she says, I don't think it would be wise to associate us so formally.
Just understand, the offer's there in the future.
She gives you a pretty definitive no. She says, understood. I think you should consider other resources, whether it's for our joint mission or otherwise, but I don't think being in a guild is quite... I intend to return to Amthras once our work is concluded.
Understood.
You bring up Mutal, and she sort of the immediate answer is like, I have within Amthras, which borders the Stratos Wilds, I have not seen or heard of any traffic coming from out of the forest. Most traffic comes through the road. And there's, at least from my time there, although I haven't been back in some years, there wasn't any construction or any new townships sprouting up to the direct east of us. So my guess would be that Mutal, based on what you've told me and what I heard during the vision, my guess is that it would be leaning closer to Consonance than it would be more eastward of the Stratos Wilds than closer to where I'm familiar with. So she's sort of like pointing, at least with the knowledge that she has, she's hoping that if this is a lead worth chasing, that instead of being 8 or 9 days away, that Mutal should be no more than like 4 days away, but you'd still have to sort of like search for it. And what was the third thing you sort of...
Just in general, I imagine since our vision that we shared together that she probably put out feelers for what she could on any of the other, people or any other circumstances, just see if she by chance had gotten any additional information.
She responds and says, the nature of my move here, sort of gesturing down to the ground in the aquatic anchor, I'm still rebuilding a little bit of my infrastructure. If there's somewhere you'd like me to focus my attention, then I can.
I think since you're already putting the feelers out on Crex, which I think is still good. Still definitely want that information. I think the next thing is just everything's pointing to this Mutal. If I remember correctly from the vision, I think that's going to be Grasian. So anything you can potentially find out on the Forest Gnome from the visions would be probably next in the priority. Anything we can get on anyone's helpful, but I think he's kind of the next piece that we're closest to right now.
Understood. Certainly the way that he was speaking during the vision implies a certain degree of behavior that I may know of some people who may know of a person named Rajan. We'll see. I'll see what I can do.
It's always greatly appreciated. Is there anything I can do to help offset any of your expenses from having to relocate?
It's appreciated. The expenses are not the issue. My concern is
the network.
And the people who I can't tend to. A lot of what I did there was trying to stem the flow of those who were getting addicted. And, next time you see Longold, she hands you a packet of glass vials that have a sort of clear liquid in them. And she says, I've produced some more antidote, and so if he and his men come across anybody in need, I would just make sure these get in his hands. I can't deliver them myself, which is one of the things I used to do, but for now, at least, he's on rotation, so.
Fair enough. How many vials was it?
There's like 12. You could probably spend some of your time doing it yourself if you wanted to.
Follow-up question for her. How hard is it to produce this? And have you ever seen vapor weaponized?
Rolling dice. I can... no, sorry, I rolled for her.
Oh, okay.
She says this is about the amount that I can make in a week. And it's a matter of time, not expenses. So, regarding the weaponization of vapor, it's nothing that I've seen directly, and yet it is certainly possible. You see her sort of like, it's like somebody who dreams up a doomsday device but knows not to use it. It's like you see her thinking about it and scratching her chin and says, certainly in a... She sort of looks at you just to like trying to gauge why you're asking.
If I pick up on the look she's giving me, I'll explain. You just handed me antidotes, and where we're probably going to end up running into might be the heart of this. And if they think shit's going down, is there a chance they could turn it on me and the rest of the party? And if so, do I hold on to a couple of these as a backup plan? Or may I ask you to create some more for us as a backup plan, and I make sure that these get into Longold's hands? That's why I'm asking.
Yes. Sounds like you're staying in town for a little bit. Come see me before you leave, and I'll have a batch ready for you as you and your friends leave. The answer is whether you're forced to ingest it as the people do for one reason or another, in the form of a tea, or if there's any way to make you breathe it in, any form of ingestion, be it through liquid or air or whatever would be unwise. Drinking it tends to have a more poisonous, life-threatening effect. Those who inhale it, as you would with dream mist, tend to have whereas dream mist is a more controlled form of hallucination that shows us visions of the past. Vapor, when inhaled in a similar way, is more hallucinogenic. And so, were you ever forced into that circumstance, that antidote would help clear that up as well.
Much appreciated.
She hands you the satchel and says, give these to Longle, and she'll have some set aside for you before you leave. So for the time being, I'm going to add. She'd probably, because she's still trying to save some for the people, and she's hoping you don't need them. She would give you 5 antidotes, 1 for everybody. I will add that to your inventory soonish.
Got it. And then the other 7 she's still giving me for the.
Well, she's giving you 12, and then she's going to give you 12 more with the hopes that 7 of them make them to Longle before you leave. Yeah, you can take all 12 if you so choose, but that's a later decision. Okay. Well, you certainly have more you can do this week, but I do want to sort of bounce around and see what other folks are doing. Let's go to team Burning Needle Blood Bank for at least a little while. This doesn't have to be your entire week doing this, but who is that's going? Is it everybody except Klax and Aesop? Okay. What services are each of you offering to Hardhold? Obviously, I think Flint's is a given.
Yeah. I think Flint is not seeing this as time off or a restful week. I think Flint is working long days trying to do as much as he can at this blood bank.
I think my goal was to more support what Flint is already planning to do and just be helpful and support and guide and move Earth as needed, or any use of my spells to help the process along. I'm not sure I was offering anything separate to Hardhold.
I think I was specifically offering being like, a branch of communication between the two groups if, as needed. Additionally, like, I don't have perhaps the magical just brute force ability to help that Mouse does, but like another body might not be able to hurt, especially a body that can get high places very easily. And then if there's time outside of it, I would want to continue looking for the record. Just seeing if there were, I know it was really pretty torn up, but if there were any scraps of information left behind or uncovered. And if there's more time on top of that, trying to like set up, even if it's just like a dusting of like travel or something, or leaves just arranged in a way to like that would identify if people other than the people who knew about this place right now, be it us, be it the vamps at the Burning Needle, were coming and going. So not trapping, but just trapping adjacent.
I mean, I am pretty sure Mouse could pretty easily close off the main entrance if we wanted to make it just the secret entrances as a way down here. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I suppose that's the question. I mean, as best as you would know, the upstairs or ground level area is completely useless when it comes to the workings of the facility. I mean, there was that one sort of ER room, but most of what Hardhold sort of wants is the storage capabilities, which are all downstairs. Because because bringing it online as a storefront would not go well. So this is all sort of an underground operation. But so Hardhold, Drada, you sort of make introductions and speak about sort of the time you have and the capacity that you and your team are willing to put into this for the time being. In the short time that I think you had just reported to him yesterday. So the first day is like, all right, he still needs a little bit of time to catch up on what you've done already. And I think the first day he takes he asks for a personal escort to see the secret exits. And although he welcomes Mouse and Flint to join if they would so like, but until he's had a chance to survey and kind of create a plan, there wouldn't really be anything that he would want them to start on right away. And so I think for the first day, you bring him over through the secret entrance on the outside of the town. You see that he lays down a few subtle markings leading through the outer edge of the wall to sort of indicate that you're going the right way. It's this far away, and it's not in any discernible language. It's not an undercommon or anything, but it is sort of like different tick marks. It reminds you of sort of we're talking like I don't necessarily like the term, but you've probably heard of hobo signals before, or hobo signs. Different symbols like triangles or houses or things like that. He's leaving these markings that sort of leave breadcrumbs towards the entrance, the secret entrance, so that anybody coming in can get there. You do sort of realize through this process that it is still quite a hike. Like if somebody lives on the edge, and he tells you about the orphanage that I sort of hinted at before, that some of his more frequent customers sort of live underneath, that for them to make their way all the way to the blood bank is basically an all-day journey, for them to get to the northern end of the town and to come around and inside. So he wants to set up a system. He's sort of dreaming big to set up a system where people only have to make that trek once every 2 weeks, if possible. And that he can have enough stores in this place where all of his donors, which he has many, their supply doesn't go to waste. It can be sort of preserved. Anyway, you show him around, catch him up on the what happened. And then the next day he brings some helping hands, that people you don't recognize. It seems like Spike and others were left behind at the club to run a game. But he brings some helping hands, people who can only go out at night. And so you sort of put two and two together, of people that you don't know and don't recognize, who all come into this space and begin to do this work with Flint and Mouse as well. And I think you are you're not like a foreman, so to speak, or a quartermaster. You're not telling people what to do, but I think your presence is the bridge that makes sure that that you and your friends as outsiders are not misinterpreted for your reasons on being there. And one reason for that, I think, is probably Flint, in that as you get more and more into this repair work, it starts to make much more sense. And you can tell me if I'm wrong in this, but you probably start to get a little excited about it.
Only to a certain extent. I think Flint's very determined and whatnot in this. I don't think it there's certainly some moments where it's like, aha, this is how this works, and this is kind of epic thing that's been built here, but I think it's mostly I got to get this done.
Mm-hmm. Give me an Arcana check, and I'm going to say with advantage because Hardhold is helping you in this particular thing.
Not my best work. I would add a
Flash of Genius. Yeah. With a 21, I had previously described there was that room, the main storage room, and then there was this sort of glass vessel that had some wood on the inside. That you said there was something with it, and as you start to clean it out and reveal, a lot of it's sort of corroded, a lot of it's just sort of nasty, and as you're starting to do that base level cleansing work, sanitation work to reveal, just to even see where the damage is, like where is there rust or where is there decay, like which parts do I need to fully remove and replace, or which parts are salvageable. You start to release some of what was in this vessel next to that like heating forge in that room, and you realize that the wood is undamaged. And as you sort of start to disassemble it, I'm going to ask for all three of you who are in this room to make a wisdom check.
Just check.
Okay, none of the results appeared in chat, but I saw a 12 from Mouse plus.
I see him in chat. A 16 for Mouse, a 3 for Flint, and a 13 for Draw.
Got it. Okay, I think it's Mouse who looks at it and says, "Huh." When you see all the wood pulled out of this thing, it forms the shape of and it's sort of laid out, disassembled, but they are all sort of long pieces of wood that are sort of curving in on the ends, and it sort of occurs to you that that together they have the shape of a small cask or a barrel, and they have a blue coloration to them. And I think it's Mouse who sort of picks up it's very similar to the Ayrshire barrel. It doesn't have like Avendir's logo on it or anything, but it is like a blue wood. Is there anything you do with that information?
I mean, I'd share it.
Yeah, I think I would try and like look at this and see like if it's still magical, if it's something I think I can somehow piece back together. I'd probably look at our cask a little bit and just see like how the two compare, if there's any sort of differences in the construction or magic or anything.
Over the course of all of this investigation, you're probably you're in a safe situation. You're probably throwing around your spells pretty loosely, I expect. You would, through detect magic and identify, learn that there's an enchantment that has been placed on this wood, that it is sort of creates an item called a cask of preservation. And you sort of connect the dots a little bit. The Ayrshire brandy that you hold in your bag of holding, because it is in the cask of preservation, is preserved indefinitely. And you get the impression that this blood bank leveraged at least this same technology to create, like blood will siphon through this system where it passes through this preservation valve, so to speak. And as long as that circulation continues, it keeps the blood within the blood bank fresh. And so you know that, like, you learn something both about the cask that you're holding on to, but also a little bit about how this all works. It's actually quite simple when you think about it. You're trying to create a flow of liquid that allows everything to pass through this focal point. And you know, it has not deteriorated. And so you understand that as long as it's sort of affixed into this, affixed into the machinery, that it will come back online.
Yeah, I try and
I make the connection specifically, like, oh, is this what we, like, Chalice does for Avendir? Like, that's why they might have been on the airship in the first place.
I think I'm going to allow you to believe what you want to believe, but I'll let you roll me another wisdom check, or history, or both. I don't know. Yeah, roll wisdom check and a history check, Andrada. Okay. History, not quite sure. Wisdom, I would say you think that there's some credence to that statement, and you wonder when you guys first heard about Avendir's trade route, there was a mention about how he holds on to a certain amount of barrels for his own personal collection, and you start to wonder if indeed those barrels even hold brandy, or if for some reason or another those barrels are reserved for something else, such as Chalice's work. Over the course of the week, it's a significant cleaning effort. There are a number of pipes that do need to be forged and replaced, and that work is kind of a little bit of a monumental undertaking without somebody who has kind of very powerful conjuration magic to just sort of do it. So I think in this amount of time, what are you guys doing to try to set them up for success?
I think just, the first day, it sounded like we couldn't do too much. So it was probably getting as many supplies as we can, setting up camp, getting the forge, just up and running, and things, that very first day. I think shortly after that, it's kind of what we were just discussing, figuring out how this all works and what the work is that needs to be done, and getting some start on that. And I think towards the very end of the week, trying to spend a day or half a day, whatever it takes, to just really write down as much as I understand how this works and what needs to be done, and the plans and everything. And I don't know how educated or well versed in magic and engineering and whatever any of these people from Hardhold's organization are, but I would try to teach them this, but also trying to put together detailed plans that some other artificer or wizard or whatever would be able to understand it.
Yeah. At some point, they do bring Spike in, who had previously reprogrammed some of those automatons, and has some know-how on some level of all this. And he, although everybody else is sort of confused and is like, tell me how to hit this hammer in a way that it makes a pipe. Spike is a little bit more able to pick up what you're putting down and take after the week comes to an end, sort of takes on a more project manager role, I would say. But Mouse, is there anything like you're adding to any of this after sort of hearing all it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I definitely think like Flint's trying to, throughout all of this, find as many efficient ways to use up all of his own magic and anything that he knows like Mouse can do. If there's sealing off that main entrance with wall of stone or reinforcing things or moving earth or whatever, trying to do as much of that like heavy lifting with the magic they do have and not waste any of it.
Yeah, I can do like camouflage with some plant growth. I can block off the entrance. I can do a lot of earth moving if that's necessary anyway.
I think like a few, with all the forges available down here, I think you probably help get those online first. And it's because, you know, you want to do the construction in-house. You don't want to have to trek the stuff all the way around the city as you're building. So I think there's probably a few times, and you can tell me if Mouse would do this, but they have some connections with the Iron Brotherhood that they don't really talk about, but there's a couple of times where they need a beast of burden to bring a bunch of metal out of town, and one way or the other it gets revealed that Mouse can help with that. And then when the first pipe, I think there's like one larger pipe that is replaced that Flint uses to demo what the needs are. And it's just ridiculously heavy. And so there may be a point where you're like, all right, I'm a Armadon now, you know, in order to move it into place. And so there's times where your skills are definitely put to use, and times when you using the magic, like you have fire magic of your own at your disposal, and you can sort of help to help ignite some of the forges. And because you have your ability to communicate at night, I mean, who else to communicate with across town than through the stars? So there's probably a couple of times when Mouse comes in and makes things a lot easier for folks.
I think with like wall of stone and conjure elementals and like to, you know, wild shape, all that kind of stuff. Like Flint's trying to come up with ways to utilize all of it every day, you know, if he can.
Drada, anything to sort of add to all this?
Yeah, I think if there's not like beast of burden tasks, but like, oh, we need something quick from within the city. Prada happens to be someone who can run very quickly and go outside during the daytime. So like courier running or like things that just need like very quick, efficient delivery of communication, I think Drada is on. I think like translator duties for like if there are any points where like people are if there are any folks talking in Undercommon about important information that I think it'd be helpful for Flint or Mouse to know, like relaying that and doing translating that over. I would say, yeah, like continuing to like pass on knowledge and information that we had discovered during our first like exploration of the place, especially like if we start branching out further and out of like the core facility itself. I mean, yeah, I have little bits of magic. If people want to use them, they are more than happy to use them. And can join other vampires in accessing ceilings and walls. Yeah, I think I'm a body to be used in a dream.
Through the courier duties, at one point you are asked to, although nothing is online yet, and you get the impression it won't be for at least a few more weeks, you are asked to bring a single message to the proprietor of the Eternal Haven orphanage. The message contains some marching instructions and marching orders for shifts for people to help do this work, so that they have enough time to like rest and recover and come in every day or come in every other day, as well as I don't want to say like motivational statements, but there is sort of with these marching orders, there are affirmations about why this work is important and how much better life will be if we can get this up and running. Hardhold's attempt to inspire the forces, so to speak. So you sort of deliver that message. You find you don't spend. I don't know that you're necessarily given free reign to walk through the orphanage, so to speak, but it is a little bit of a front. There are like poor non-vampire humanoid children that take over the upper floors, but there is a expansive underground area for non-children vampires of all kinds. That the impression that you get is that there's at least 20 down there that are making a home underneath the orphanage. And the impression that Hardhold gives you is that those are people that he considers to be sort of his closest family. They're not the only ones. There are people like Master Krex or the orc lady who I forget her name, that have a means of attaining riches and living in other areas of the town. But these are the ones that he cares for the most and tends to provide free services to.
That in mind, like, I would, one, absolutely, like, be trying to get to know them as much as I can in the short time. Strahda's speed friend, which Strahda's really good at, but try to, get to know these people. Also, like, offer, like, if any of them, like, if they are down on their luck in any way, shape, or form, and, like, want messages sent out to, like, family elsewhere, be it, like, across the continent or in Mercy, like, happy to, continue to be a courier and pass along information. And, even if it's just, like, a message to a loved one or something.
Yeah. For the most part, you get the impression that they are not from Mercy. These are people who were sort of left behind when a lot of that migration happened. And so, and like, flying on an airship is expensive. So many of them have found themselves stuck here. And that's sort of how that happened. But
even if it's like, hey, we're going to be going across the continent, so if there are any messages you have, important info, I'm happy to.
I think you spend some time building trust throughout all this. Specifically, I'd say more so with the workers, the people who are coming in to help with the blood bank. The last thing when you're sort of doing courier duty is that you are asked to sort of, you're given a little bit of like how to keep things on the down low speech from Hardhold. And you're asked to deliver a few drop-offs to a few locations of vials. And he doesn't really tell you too much beyond that. Because he says that there are people in the city who'd prefer that they are not known. But you do a few like dead drops, so to speak. But all said and done, after the week concludes, Hardhold, and you sort of set them up for success, although you might want to check in with them next time you're back. Hardhold does reward your work with a sum of 600 gold pieces. There's not an expectation for you to do more. And it's sort of like, you've fulfilled a task. You're not on salary. So if you need more work and if they have more work that needs to be done, on this in particular, then they are willing to pay for it. For ease, we'll just say 200 gold to each of you.
Easy enough.
Okay. Jump over. You guys could still maybe have other things you're doing this week. I know there's probably plenty, but Aesop, anything like primary objectives over this time?
Yeah, my primary objective will definitely be trying to get access to the library again. And like kind of spending time with family since they're in the same district, and I do need a place to stay since we're all kind of separated. Because I guess Aesop hasn't really had like the time to, chill, slow down, and now that he has a chance to do so in the city, like, and family's just right across the way, I think that's a priority for him right now. But finding a way to get into the library and like creating that conversation just to get in there, I think will be his main priority for like the first or second day if it's not successful.
I do think at the very beginning of the week, I probably would have encouraged you guys to follow up on the guild hall and just like if you need the cask or something, if you wanted to sell it or do something with it or whatever, just come in and check on us.
Yeah, I'll do the guild hall stuff sort of closer to the end as we're getting into what you get out of the guild hall information wise as well. What do you do? So you've come across this brick wall of a goblin a couple times, and you've always had Jory to bring you into the library.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do? Like, what other lanes do you approach to try to get in?
Oh God. I guess I should have thought about that in this time. Something more specific. I think I would try to lie. I met the guy that Jory's working for, right? Like I met him briefly.
The judge of the Tournament of Tales,
Yeah.
Guro's Alabaster, yes.
Yes. I think I would relay information to the goblin. There's probably a name, but I forgot. That Jory needs some documents here in the library to help him out, and he reached out to me to figure out some information on. Did Jory say what specifically he was researching on? It's been a month.
He said that he is his trip is designed to more so introduce him to the other networks and hubs of information in the world. He's not actually researching a particular thing.
I see.
But he's traveling to different libraries and meeting different people to expand his network and his awareness of like what else is out there.
I see. Then I would try to revolve around the information of like trying to gauge. I guess I could choose a specific subject. What kind of information our library here in the university holds about like elementals and find information about that and send that to Jory to like kind of stem a conversation what still needs to be researched and studied. Basically I'm like a helping hand since they're not here at the library to do it themselves.
I'm cutting you off because I feel like the goblin would cut you off and he would just be like, I need to go check in with my boss,
Yes.
I think roll me a persuasion check.
Cool.
I know there's a minimum that you can get.
Let's just see.
Okay, so that's pretty high. What transpires is that Jory's boss is called to greet you, and you sort of
You would go.
Yeah, the nature of this is that it seems that people need an escort to come through here.
I see.
But although I think there's an air of like not necessarily the goblin just doing the goblin's job, and his boss knows that you're lying, but he also knows that like I think there's an air of like he knows that you miss your friend and you were a student here, so if there's something he can help you with within sort of the non non-classified files, then he will help you find it.
Okay. So that would infer that he will be doing the research instead of me.
He will be helping you with the research.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I would first off apologize. Just if finding information on this specific thing is essential to what my mission is. Stratus Wilds, a region / new township called Mutal. I don't know if this could help, but closer to the Consonance border. So like, what would that be? Eastern Stratus Wilds?
Yeah.
I think I would start there.
He sort of guides you through geography sections and the archives of maps and whatnot. I think he probably has access to the same maps that Avendir has. And so he said he kind of gives you a very similar run of like, if there are updated maps from Cloudtop Logistics, and they haven't made it to our records yet. But as of right now, Mutal is not. I would say the way that he frames it is, Mutal is not a sanctioned city or township as far as the government of Ventus is concerned on this map.
Not even a region, huh? Okay.
I think he would further say there are no roads that have been like he digs a little deeper and looks into any permits that have sort of been crossing his desk, and nobody's looked to build any roads into the Stratos Wilds, which would normally be one of the first things they do.
Yeah, fair. So it's just hidden. Okay.
Is there any other research subjects?
Would I know if they happen to have research on like specific guilds, or would that be in the Trade Federation hall?
You would probably ask him about that, and he would tell you that there are public records of sort of news about guilds that are published by various journals, but files not so much.
Yeah.
Like it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for stories, then maybe.
Fair. Okay. I think I would end the conversation, or end that day, depending on how long that took, with talking about how kind of just talking about Jory and the work that he's done, and that I do miss him, but I know that he's doing great work abroad, and that it will be great for his career.
He sort of like, as he's walking you out and you're sort of closing with that, he says, yeah, I wasn't expecting him to choose to take this journey so fast, but he was very eager to see the world a little bit. So
That's fair. I kind of did the same thing. I miss him though. Okay. All right. Sorry to lie. Just needed information. It is appreciated that you helped me. And are you going to just be here for?
Yeah, he. There's a degree to which, you know, I'm trying to not do everything, but he is. Like you've sort of, you know, that you've taken up some of his busy time. Yep. And he sort of indicates like, yes, I do work here, but it comes off with a tone of like, but I'm also busy.
Yeah, don't bother me. Yep. All right. I just wanted to make sure that like his office is here in case like I need specifically him.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I would go home the first night, and just kind of like relax with my family. Just kind of like kick your shoes off, like put on a blanket and just kind of like sit around with family and just talk. It's been a
Okay.
while, and I think ASOP needs that.
I think closer to the end of this week, you also start to see more of the recovery squad return. It seems that the boat that your captain sort of took to bring you guys back home was able to safely return with the fuel needed to bring everybody back. And closer to the end of the week is around the time when you start to hear the sounds of life and activity within the town. And for the most part, I think, like, especially in this first day of people being back, they're just relieved to have a bed to sleep on. There's nothing really happening. Everybody seems to be going into break mode. So,
Yeah, that's fair. That's what my parents said.
yeah, but you sort of get a little bit of the gossip, and it seems like the decommissioning of the mission was a success. So
That's good. I'm glad that nothing else transpired while we were away. But the smaller things on my list is just probably take one of the days or nights to plan out with like the friends who are here. Of course, reaching out to them through sending. Plan a night at like Mother Mary's for us to like all get together and kind of just eat. Because I don't know when I'll be back in the city after this, if we decide to leave after this week. And then taking each night, because it's been busy, to just like reconnect again with Neptus, making sure he's doing okay, and like if he really needs something from me. I know he doesn't really talk much, but I guess I'm trying to get him to open up a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think what you're realizing is that there isn't. It's hard to make progress when in the current situation.
No.
You're gonna have to find a creative solution to somehow do that. I mean, right now you are at best a comfort to whatever Neptus is going through, but you're not really receiving anything back at the moment.
At a percentage level, if you could give me one, how much of the black essence / ichor has made its way through the
Only a little
elemental
more.
gem?
Only a little more. Have I given you a percentage before?
I don't think you've
Yeah.
given me a percentage.
I mean,
yet.
I haven't written down a percentage, but I'm feeling like maybe 5%,
Hot. That's all I need to know.
but maybe it was 3% before.
This is true. Excuse me.
Okay.
But that's it for me.
Okay. We've gone over sort of, well, Clax, I don't know if there's any other big ticket items other than talking to Alua.
No, not really on my end, other than just try and find a way to get Longo the vials.
That's
Obviously, I'd
easy, yeah.
make my way back down to the Elegant Rapier at some point and do that handoff and give him the vials. Only other thing was maybe do some shopping, but I know my budget's not for anything big at this point, so just window shop some armor, get an idea, but that's about it.
Okay. I think you still have a working quote from somebody at the Iron Brotherhood
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
If you wanted to have something made, but
Yeah, I don't have enough gold.
Fair.
That gold disappeared pretty quickly, so.
Any other, besides the guild hall, which I will cover here soon, anything else from anybody, people who you want to contact, things you want to do, that are like consequential things, I would say, not small talk.
I don't know if it's consequential, but I would like to check in with Olive one night.
Sure.
I don't want it to be consequential.
You, in one of the evenings, you send out your sort of starry energy in an attempt to connect. You do find the connection made, but it feels weaker.
Weaker, or do I get the sense that it's being watched again?
Give a perception check if you like. Or, sorry. How would I Arcana check?
That is sizably worse.
You're not sure. I mean, your base level is that it feels like you feel the energy projecting from you at sort of the full normal strength, so to speak. But you feel like only like it's coming in quiet to whoever's on the receiving end.
I will say, hey, Olive, I hope you're well. I know it's been a while. I was kind of worried about contacting you again. How's the island?
You hear her voice return to you. I'm going to ask for an insight check. I forget that you had +8. I saw the 5 and I was like, nope. With a 13, you're not fully sure to what degree this is, but she sounds older, and she was already pretty old. But she sounds a little bit more like, I think over the course of this message, you probably hear a cough or two come through, and her voice is a little bit raggedy. Could just be a cold, but you have your suspicions. And she says, Mouse, it's good to hear from you again. The island is well. It would be good to see you when you have the chance. But nothing to concern yourself with.
I will respond. I'm glad the island is well. You sound tired. I'm not sure I can come back immediately. Should I speed up that timeline?
If you have... My old age is catching up to me as all, and the elders have kept me in bed for some time. If you have important work, please continue doing it, but if you have time, it would be good to see you.
At some point during the week, I would, if we're all together, tell the party that I'm a little uneasy about how things are going back on my island.
What does that mean?
I'm not 100% sure. I know Arcana was having an influence there, and my friend she says all is well, but she doesn't sound like all is well.
How long was the journey before when you used the airship to come to Ventus?
A little over a week before you crashed.
That's what I was gonna say. Is I think it was about a week. Maybe once Fern is here, we can send him back with our ship. I don't know. It's worth having it in our eyesights, I think. I know everything else we're doing right now is really important, but I am a little worried.
Yeah, I don't know if we have any other good way to get there, sort aside from once we have the airship back. Maybe once we're done with this, Wilds location, Stratos Wilds, and we've got the airship, maybe we try and make a trip there.
I think that sounds reasonable to me. Also, Mouse, you know what this means. The protagonist arc is coming up soon.
I mean, I'd sort of rather it didn't, but okay. Also, if we wait a little bit longer, I might be able to find a way to just transport us there.
I get
I
2
need-
more levels.
I was like, I need more practice and time, though.
Yeah, I would say Mouse knows a good big tree back home. It's really just a matter of levels. Any other messages you send that you want? Or I didn't want to dismiss all small talk, but if there's anybody that you want to check in on, you do have so many sendings.
I would see about, because I know Fern was, as time allows, just check in if the timeline had changed there or if...
Yeah. He is on the way. The impression you get is it'll take... You would have to wait. If you're only taking a week of downtime, you'd have to wait another 3 days. And then even then, you're not sure, like, until you've really seen the guild house, you don't really know what their like parking situation is going to be like. But you do know that Fern is on the way.
Share with the party.
And so far, smooth sailing.
I mean, no, we didn't. We didn't have smooth sailing the first time. Mouse remembers it as smooth sailing.
Anything else before Guild Hall?
Where's
At some
Clax?
point,
Oh.
go for it. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, where's Clax staying throughout this week? Are you? I assume kind of me, Mouse, and Drada are probably camping in the woods near that. Like,
I expect you guys do rendezvous every 2 days just to check in, or you wouldn't lose track of each other unless somebody goes off pretty far.
No, I assume Clax would be between the aquatic anchor and the elegant rapier, with getting the vials, dropping them off a Longo while he's down there, just stay down there, and maybe even take 1 or 2 of the vials, try and deliver himself if he sees help. But again, I don't know if I'd really do that yet.
yeah.
And then back up to the aquatic anchor because I want to give Aesop's parents their quiet time.
Yeah, maybe yes. Maybe after the guild hall thing, I'll have a chat with Clax based on that. Doesn't sound like I'll see him much throughout the week.
Okay. Jacob, it sounds like you had something, but I did want to. Well, actually, go ahead, Jacob.
Yeah, at some point in the week, I would send a second message to Anushka, kind of detailing a lot of the revelations and things we learned. Both, I think, back at the first go exploring the blood bank, but so yeah, what we're learning the second time around. Specifically, yeah, talking about the fate of Jasper and Sebastian, finding of the sword. And I think I probably would mention the Dawnbringers.
You would or would not?
I think I would mention. I don't think I'd mention all of the Flint connection, but I think I would say like, this is a name that we read.
For the most part, the role that you seem to find Anushka in is perhaps more of a middleman or middlewoman, where she receives your messages and then runs them up to folks. You haven't really you're dropping these details, Jasper, Sebastian, Dawnbringers, and not receiving any like, oh my gosh, any sort of verbal reactions to any of this. And when you first ran up the details about the blood bank. You were never contacted back with anything. It seems like Anushka, for the most part, has been just being like, message received, thanks, understood. And you're expecting sort of some means to follow up on that, but you don't get anything. But when you do mention the Dawnbringers, at first you get the response of like, understood, we'll run it up, et cetera, et cetera. But you do receive follow-up some time later, like a day or two later, that says this is a priority. Any additional information you can get as to their whereabouts, their numbers, their techniques, the means at which they do this work, all details are helpful. And you get a sort of follow-up, or following that message, there is a mention that not only is this a priority, but a plan is being concocted, although no plan, none of those details are being communicated to you.
I think, I don't think I would quite risk, given just how nasty Flint has said they can be, and I think I wouldn't quite deliver the communication on like the castle whereabouts until I have more. But I think I say like received. I'll keep my ears wide.
Yeah, and the impression you get is like they're concocting a plan, but they're not looking to do a suicide mission. They need information to proceed. So there's a degree of like, we're counting on you for this. Really quick, Clax, you are caught one day near the aquatic anchor by Pot, who her squad is sort of patrolling that area as you chase down that one drunkard earlier nearby the aquatic anchor, actually. And you do catch her, and I recall that you don't have to do this right now if you don't want to, but I recall that at one point you wanted to connect with her and had talked about wanting to learn more about things that had happened.
I think it depends. When you say I caught up with her, if she's with her squad, I don't think this is the time or place for it, other than just maybe putting a friendly reminder that we still need to get together for a beer at one point and catch up.
Yeah. Okay. For the time being, she's like, all right, I know where you're staying. Maybe you say that you're going out of town soon. And she says, when you get back, I know where to find you.
Fair enough.
And unless there's anything else, you all do a variety of things. I'm sure you have your own personal activities and catching up on whatnot throughout the town. If there's any simple shopping that you want to do, such as buying basic equipment, feel free to do that between games. Whether it's like simple armor or sort of supplies of one kind or another, simple healing potions and antidotes and things like that are easy to find, but anything that's like considered magical or any like heavy metal armor is going to be a more difficult thing to put together. Although Flint, I would say, like, as part of, although you're expecting to get a workshop out of this guild hall, one thing that Hardhold does give you is access to the forges within the blood bank as well, should you ever need them. Just sort of knowing that that's something that you enjoy. So if there's any projects you would kick off, feel free to just sort of take note that you had a few days to spare. But you all do eventually get word from Searock Antonius, the Akrokra at the Guild Federation, who would tour you through several options that have been procured and reserved for your guild. For all like, I haven't made these yet, but I will send you sort of, because I want this to be like a little bit of a fun creative thing for folks. So I'm going to sort of make a map just for fun, whether or not anything happens in this guild hall ever, combat wise, but I want to make it just for fun, and I'm going to send it to you guys on Discord later so you can give feedback on it in case there's anything you would change about it. There was this conversation about the location of the guild hall, and not the marble walls, but you can be located out of the Southern Heights or the Factory Precinct. The Southern Heights, you know that all expenses are being paid by Avendir for the first year, but you do know that the Southern Heights after 1 year costs 500 gold per season to maintain, whereas the Factory Precinct costs 200 gold per season to maintain. So there's sort of like, you could live it up for a year with Avendir's sponsorship, but at some point you're going to have to start making those ends meet. Or you could do a more budget thing, knowing that maybe you want somewhere that's a little bit more central to, like, the Factory Precinct is oddly more central to the city, even though it's in a less expensive or fancy area of town. So there's various trade-offs. If you have an opinion, then let me know. But as far as the amenities are concerned, you are able to get a workshop, you're able to get living quarters. Once you guys, the time that you will spend out of town is the time they're going to spend building it for you, or like retrofitting it for you. And that is the point at which you're going to need to have all your people together to sign off on it. So there's still some time for Fern and others to get here. But do you guys think you would favor the Factory Precinct or the Southern Heights?
All right, was it 500 gold and 200 gold per year or per season?
It's per season. So
Per season.
2,000 per year or 800 per year.
I know what I'm voting for.
Love me. Location, location, location.
No, literally.
Because we're going to have an airship, they did tell us we're going to get access to the marble walls.
Well, yes, you would have access to the skyport behind the marble walls, and you would have access via escort to inside and outside of the marble walls. You would not have free reign of the marble walls district.
But does that imply that if we were in the Southern Heights, we could just easily walk through there to get over to the Northern Heights?
No.
Okay, we couldn't just get an escort to go through.
You might be able to smooth talk your way into that, but the license would not necessarily allow that. You do know, so I would say the airship, both of the places that you tour, because you had mentioned the small airship before, they both have like helipads on top that Mouse can confirm would fit the airship. The one in the Southern Heights does have a cover. So it's like a little bit more safe from the elements or anybody who's just wants to scale the walls of your guild hall. And you do know that they're like, well, so you know that you don't necessarily have to rely on the skyport. That said, I think Clax would also tell you that even if you have an airship, you're not going to be flying over the castle for free. Like if the Cloud Guard, which is like the sky version of the unifiers, if they see you flying over the marble walls, you're in big trouble. So there's still like a little bit of air control as well.
So many rules here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
You just have to learn to teleport.
How do we ping on the map again? What button is it?
Hold left click.
I feel like if we get a spot in the factory precinct, like in this area, great. Does everyone see my ping?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Did they specifically tell us where in these two districts?
I'm allowing you if there's some listen, it's not I want to expedite some of the overland travel in this game so that we're not caring about every hour of travel. So it's not really a big deal where it is. It's just a matter of like, I think the opportunity is that you're probably measuring is less about travel distance and more about appearances, even of like being able to afford somewhere in the more expensive district may bring connections.
Sorry, I'm very distracted by Sean's markers.
Hey, I'm just, scouting out, seeing what properties around the area.
Fair.
Zillow.com.
Yeah, I love a fantasy apartment.
They do mention this is like in the Southern Heights. They do mention that in addition to the kind of like slightly more upscale buildings, that there is also advertising space. They've come up with several slogans to test out for the Left Stars. If there's anything that like you're interested in, they're like infinite adventures, countless stars, join us or work with us. There's unshackled by fate, bound only by our dreams. They don't know anything about the Left Stars, but they're
Right.
like
Fine.
forging new paths, guiding the stars of adventure. Like they're like, all right, we have some advertising space for you guys if you want to use it in the Southern Heights, but that comes with a cost as well,
We're left of center and right where we belong.
Wow.
Write
that down. Write that down.
Yeah.
It's just ripping off Janelle Monáe, and that's fine.
I'm giving you inspiration. I like it. Now, whether you choose to use it or not is up to you.
Does anybody have any strong opinions between the two districts?
Just the
Which
fact that
has the more built-in cabinets? Do either of them have hardwood floors? What kind of countertop?
I'm just looking at the price tag per season. So for Clax, definitely would prefer the factory precinct, but if the rest of the group wants the Southern Heights, he could swallow it. Just understand we might be having to kill some liches and go after some red dragons for their hordes, so just we might be doing some real adventuring to pay for this.
The 500 is added on top of what we had to pay the people who are running the guild, so that's not even our total at the end of the day. So I'm with Clax.
I'm also with Clax. Also, just like I feel like being a guild sponsored by Appendeer in and of itself is a little bit of clout that we can use just at the get-go.
Maybe our advertisement could just be his face. Be like, he started this guild. You know him. You love him. Left Stars.
We don't have his brandy. Think walk.
I just still don't understand why everyone feels the need to assign monetary value to things.
And honestly, you're right.
Like, why is the other one so much more expensive? It's just, how did they decide that number? Mouse. Like, it doesn't. I don't get it.
Well, on the
And
other hand,
if it's available, shouldn't we be able to use it?
Yeah, Aesop, you do know that there's better restaurants in the Southern Heights, though.
But if we get a location like right here, they're a quick walk away.
Yeah, I think I lean factory precinct as well. I think. Now, granted, here's a long ways away, but
Yeah, I mean, metagame wise, like, will this campaign last a year in game? Who knows? You guys have gotten to level whatever you're at now, 9, and it's been like 8 weeks in game, maybe. Anyway, okay, Factory Precinct. Sirach begins that paperwork. He collects your requirements once more, and we'll work on that in Discord together. But you do sort of sign some preliminary titles to the building in the Factory Precinct, and with that, you gain a license as the founders of the Left Stars within the Ventus Guild Federation. Using that, it sounds like you have an intent to look into the Hermetic Host, the guild that Graygen you expect to be running. They do ask, they're like, well, of course we can provide you information on other guilds. You're presented with some paperwork that is sort of like, to Mouse it means nothing probably, but reading it over, it gives you sort of like, there's sort of like an NDA quality to it, and a sort of like, you cannot use the information of what other guilds are doing as a competitive advantage to them, things of that nature. And there, I think you would see that in order to get access to the information you want, you do have to sign something that essentially says the Left Stars has procured this information. And so you know that that is a vulnerability that you're going to have to tiptoe around, should you choose to go through with this.
I think the follow-up question is that information made readily available to the other guild immediately, or is it something they have to request to see if other people are looking into them?
This is, I think, like, they're saying, what they tell you is like, you know, if you fill out this form, then we will have the information ready by tomorrow. So it's not an extended wait.
Do they give us the impression that they are like specifically notifying the guild that we are asking about?
It's more of a record. Yeah.
That's what I was getting at. So
yeah, I mean, I would say it's a record, but you expect that that these sort of like, I think Flint is probably one of his roles in this guild is to do all the paperwork to some degree. And I think, like, as you're signing the initial forms and this and that and the other thing, you understand that there is a paperwork requirement at the at least once a year for guilds to sort of reconcile their records. And so what that would reveal to you is, like, at some point, the Hermetic Host, if they're doing their paperwork well, would realize that somebody looked for this information. But so you just need to, like, figure out what to do about that. Like, if there's some way to mask it or some way to make it more of an official inquiry, or like, you would need to, you don't have to figure that out right now, but you know that, like, if somebody looks into this, it may raise eyebrows.
Huddling with the group to the, you know, the side, out of earshot of the attendant or whatever. Are we okay with, like, forging this stuff? These, like, requests or something? Or like,
I was just gonna write my name so illegible on any documents, so it's just my signature, but you can't trace it to me.
I guarantee you they're still going to print on there the Left Stars asked about it.
I know.
I mean, we could do a couple of different. We could try to look up info about another guild, say the Jade Mask, and then see if when we're in there, like other groups, info is available in there that we could rifle through,
It's not
or
like they get the data around to bring it to us, right?
Alternatively, we could try to forge the paperwork for the request and make it seem like we're the Jade Mask or some other guild. Or we just, I don't know, don't worry about it, or steal the paperwork later, or something.
I was about to say, if we knew another person in a guild, and officially ask, we could disguise ourselves as that person to make the request, and then come back the next day as that person again and get it. But I don't know if we know anyone.
The Southern Heights has advertisements left and right for various guilds. I'm not saying we walk around and see if we can get a name and a face to copy and then come in request. Not.
Or why don't we just find the biggest guild in the realm, go pay them a fee to go get the information on our behalf, because then they're the signing authority. Or find a smaller guild that needs the money. It's probably even better.
Yeah. Some struggling guild, yeah.
We'll give you 100 gold if you go get the information on Hermetic Host, and tell us what you find out.
We're also putting them on the spot, though.
You also know that effort, all of these ideas may take days.
Sure. Or we just fill out the paperwork and hope this Hermetic Posts are shut down in a year by the time they do their paperwork next.
Yeah, as long as that's tomorrow.
That's our plan, isn't it? To get them to shut down.
Yeah.
I'm fine. Fill out the paperwork is my thought.
All right. What could go wrong?
Kevin's just over there.
Listen, you guys can try to go into Mutal as savvy businessmen trying to make a deal. Like, there's so much opportunity to like legitimize it as well instead of so whatever you choose to do, you are not required to list a justification in your request, but you do, as you fill out the paperwork, it is sort of notarized by Searock that Flint of the Left Stars has requested information about XYZ for the Hermetic Host. And we will leave it there, and we'll discuss that offline as well about sort of what exactly you're trying to learn, because I think like I will probably just sort of prepare a dump of useful information, of sort of like baseline information about what you should expect and what you're walking into. But if there's anything like in specific that you're searching in those records, then I want to make sure you guys have the time to think about that. But next session, we will be leaving Consonance and embarking in that part of the adventure. So thanks for playing.
It's good to be back.